Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Spurs Up Show, the best Gamecocks podcast on the internet. Today is Thursday, September the 17th, 2020. On today's show, it's the last one before game week. Guys, we are single digits away from kickoff. I'll give my final thoughts as we go into the weekend, get ready for game week next week, talk about the Tennessee game a little bit, give some depth chart projections, some other stuff as well. Tons to get into here on a Thursday. Also, news and notes, your listener question. We also have a fantastic interview. Former Gamecocks wide receiver and friend of the show, Tori Gurley, joins the show to talk about his career at South Carolina, the NFL, his thoughts on Will Muschamp, this 2020 football season. A ton to get into, a fantastic conversation with Tori Gurley. And it's all brought to you by our friends over at MyBookie. Guys, it's been summertime. Things are starting to cool off, right? You guys feel the weather. It's football weather now. We're getting into fall. We're getting into football season. At MyBookie, that can only mean one thing. It is winning season. Guys, winning season means doubling your first deposit. Winning season means free bets, super contests, Survivor, and more. At MyBookie, winning season is all about your chance to win big. You can bet NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs, Major League Baseball, UFC, college football, NFL, all kinds of stuff, guys. The craziest sports time of your life is here. It's simple. Just make your picks, win big, and collect your cash. Invest in your intuition. Guys, you're smart. You guys are all smart. You all know who's going to win these games, right? Select from hundreds of future bets, or you can bet games in real time with MyBookie's live betting. Put that big brain of yours to good use. Go to mybookie.ag. That's mybookie.ag, guys. Use the promo code Gamecocks and double your first deposit. Again, mybookie.ag, promo code Gamecocks, double your first deposit. New players get up to $1,000 in free play. So, guys, you put $1,000 in, they're going to match it. They're going to give you another $1,000. You put $500, they'll give you $500, $250. It's a win-win. You cannot lose in this scenario. It's designed to add more excitement to the sports you love and the games you bet. Thousands of cross-sports wagers, props, and parlays await. Sign up now to bet with the best and celebrate your victory. Again, guys, that's mybookie.ag, promo code Gamecocks, mybookie.ag, promo code Gamecocks. Your winning season begins today only at MyBookie. Let's get it. I'm Chris Phillips, Joseph the Spurs Up Show as always. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Got a packed show today. Very, very excited to talk to you for many different reasons. The first one being, guys, we've hit single digits. We have officially hit single digits here on this September the 17th, 2020. We are now just 9 days away from kickoff. We are in single digits away from kickoff. Some of us thought we may never get to this day. I try to keep perspective, and I'm just grateful, honestly, that we're even at this point. Just over a week out, this is the last show that we are doing that is a non-game week show until we get to December. I am giddy about that. I'm fired up about that. I also just finished, you guys probably saw on social media, I just finished a mod on NCAA 14. We've got brand new helmets, jerseys. The field is revamped. I'm going to be bringing back the NCAA 14 content. I'm very, very excited. That's kind of a random side note, but again, you guys may have seen on social media, the guys over at College Football revamped, or to thank for that, I was able to download the mods. But we're going to bring it back because the shit looks awesome. I'm just going to say right now, it looks freaking awesome. But very excited you guys are joining here on a Thursday. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope you're having a fantastic day and a fantastic week as well. Like I said, the last show that is a non-game week show until December. So starting next week, as I've told you guys over and over again, the daily shows are back. We're going to be going Monday through Friday every single day, with the big shows being on Monday, Thursday, obviously. But Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, there will be sort of like mini shows, just like I did last season. There'll be episodes that are like 15 to 20 minutes on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. I'm extremely, extremely excited for. I cannot stress how happy I am and how excited I am that the daily shows are back, which leads me into, again, we're going to get into our housekeeping items as always. If you guys have not done so, with that being said, take 5 seconds out of your day. Go rate the show first off. Go leave 5 stars, your thoughts, your feedback, whatever it may be, things you like, things you don't like. I like all the feedback, honestly. I like hearing from you guys, and that's the best place to do it, whether you're on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, whatever it may be. take 5 seconds, leave your thoughts, leave your feedback. I truly do appreciate that. And thank you to those that have already done so. Also, if you're not subscribed, and this is the point that I was just getting to, if you're not subscribed, again, guys, starting next week, literally starting Monday, the daily shows are back, and you're not going to want to miss any of them at all. So you want to be subscribed so you're getting those daily notifications. Again, does not matter the platform you're on, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play. Be sure that you are subscribed to the podcast because, again, those daily shows are back starting Monday, and I'm extremely fired up about it. So, again, rate, subscribe. If you've already done so, thank you so much. I truly do appreciate it. Also, another quick tidbit, the Daily Crow, I've talked about it a lot. And, again, this isn't a huge deal, but for those that are interested, I've been doing the Daily Crow kind of later in the afternoon, around 5 o'clock or so. We have a set time. We have a set time starting next week, starting Monday, 12 to 1, Monday through Friday. Every single day I'm going to be doing the Daily Crow, Monday through Friday, 12 to 1. It's going to stream via Periscope, which is Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. So you have different outlets, different channels, which you can watch the content. It's going to be a Q&A type thing. So, again, I love the interaction we've had thus far. And I think with game week and with games going on, there's going to be a lot of people asking questions, a lot of opinions, a lot of engagement from you guys, which I really, really like. And that's sort of the goal. Also, there is going to be a call-in number. There's going to be a call-in number for those that do want to call into the show. That's 843-790-3377. Yes, you've heard that number before. It is the Google voicemail number that I use. I'm going to take it off of Do Not Disturb. Going to be taking your calls each and every single day. I don't know how many calls we'll get. We may not even get one. But for those that do want to call in, I think it'll be really cool to take those calls on air, interact with you guys, banter with you guys, whatever you may be. So the Daily Crow officially back starting Monday, 12 to 1, Monday through Friday, taking your calls, your questions, your comments, your thoughts, whatever it may be. I think it's going to be something that's really cool and is going to be a lot of fun as we get into the season. One last thing, then we'll get into the actual meat and potatoes of the show. Very excited to announce our first event of the 2020 football season, an Overtime Bar and Grill. We're doing a little bit of a meet and greet, hangout, if you will, sort of like a kickoff party. Going to be a good time, though. Food specials, drink specials, Monday Night Football next Monday. So this upcoming Monday, September the 21st, all gets going at 6 o'clock, and we'll go until they have to close, I guess. I guess what would that be, 11? So just 6 until. So meet and greet, hangout. Obviously, I'll be there. We already got a bunch of people I've already confirmed they're going to be there as well. Really fun stuff. Again, meet and greet, hangout. Like I said, they've got $3.50 Long Island iced teas, $4 sangrias. Also, if you're a student and you're hearing this, 10% off food for students when you show your Carolina card. So that's a cool thing as well. So like I said, kind of a casual kickoff event. Like I said, I'll be there eating some good food, drinking some drinks, watching some football. They've got pool tables and stuff. You guys have probably already seen the video, but I'm very, very excited to get this going. Kind of our, again, kickoff event at Overtime Bar and Grill. You guys can get familiar with the venue, with the setup, because this is probably where I'm going to be for every single game, watching the games. I mean, I'm going to try to make it to at least one, but this is probably where I'm going to be for basically every single game. So you guys come on out again Monday, September the 21st at Overtime Bar and Grill. And, again, I've put the graphic on social media with the address, the specials, everything else. Is going to be a really, really good time. All right, let's dive into it. So this show, I was trying to think of what we were going to talk about today because, honestly, guys, I've basically previewed everything. I mean, I have previewed everything to the point where I was like, man, like I guess I kind of misscheduled it because I didn't have it lead up perfectly into this Thursday and start fresh on Monday or whatever for the season. But it is what it is. Here we are. We don't have a QB1 announcement, which is kind of what I was hoping for a little bit. We don't have a QB1 announcement. We don't have a new uniform reveal. So I'm just going to kind of give you guys my random, unfiltered thoughts before we hit game week next week. Because I'm very excited. Again, we're in single digits. We're 9 days away from kickoff. Talking about the Tennessee game, we can start to talk about that a little bit. Tennessee, I mean, I was just thinking today, how much easier is my life going to be doing what I do if South Carolina gets the win over Tennessee? I don't think Tennessee is world beaters in any stretch of the imagination. I think it's a coin flip game. I think it's going to be a toss-up game. You take a look at the spread right now for the game. I think Tennessee still sits around, let's see here. I'll pull up the spread. Last I saw, they were sitting around a 3.5 point favorite. Let's see here. Okay, so not on that website. Okay, 3-point underdog. 3-point underdog. Tennessee sitting around a 3-point underdog. South Carolina sitting around a 3-point underdog. But I think it's a must-win. At home, you are going to have fans in the stadium. Now, I've been riding by Williams-Brice Stadium, and they've got the seats bolted in right now. They've got the chair backs bolted in. So You're going to have fans there. I know it's not going to be a normal raucous Willie B, but you are going to have fans in the stadium. It's one of those swing games, and I've talked about it all offseason, but it's one of those swing games that if you're going to get to that 5-win mark, or better, if you're going to get to that 5-win mark, though, which is what I've said should be the minimum expectation, that should be the goal this season. It's one of those swing games you simply put just have to win. You have to find a way to win it. You really do. Tennessee's got their own problems, their own questions with Jarrett Garantano. And I was thinking about this game today. This game really does feel like it's going to come down to quarterback play. It really does at the end of the day. I know that may be something that's, oh, Chris, that's obvious or whatever, but I really do feel like in this game, because I think it's going to be a low-scoring game either way. I don't see either offense blowing up in this game. And the defenses in this game are really good. I don't see either offense blowing up. So I really do think it comes down to whichever quarterback makes the least amount of mistakes. That's the team that's going to win the football game. You know, I've talked about before with this Gamecocks offense, I think South Carolina, and I've been very critical of them. I've been very skeptical of how the offense is going to perform. I've been very vocal that I'm worried about the offense, and I don't project the offense to be very good. But with that being said, I think South Carolina can get to 5 wins. Heck, it may even be able to get to 6, depending on how good the defense is. I think South Carolina can get to 5 wins, though, with that identity. I think they can get to 5 wins with the identity of, you know what, we're not going to wow you. We're not going to do anything flashy. We're not going to be necessarily must-watch TV on offense. You know, we're not going to do anything crazy. But what we are going to do is we're going to play sound fundamental football. We're going to take care of the ball. And we're going to let our defense work. And we're going to let our defense put us in good positions because we trust our defense. We're going to win time of possession. I just, you know, again, I'd love to be wrong and see South Carolina go out there and score 35 week 1 and see this offense score 30 a game. I'd love to be wrong. But I'm trying to be realistic with the question marks at wide receiver, with the question marks at running back. I'm trying to be realistic when it comes to that. But again, I think it's really just going to come down to who makes more mistakes. Colin Hill or Ryan Helinski, or will it be Jarrett Garantano, or if they're playing somebody else? But I think it is going to be Garantano going to be your starting quarterback. Another big factor for this game, and again, I'm going to talk about this in extreme depth next week, so I don't want to get too much into it, but how much does COVID play a factor? How much does COVID play a factor? You know, Tennessee's had their issues. Hopefully South Carolina doesn't have the issues pop up in the next week. How does that play a factor as well? But Tennessee, I've said it all offseason. It's just going to be crazy how much different the vibe and the feeling and the attitude and the mentality, whatever adjective you want to use, but it's just going to be crazy how much different things are if South Carolina gets the win in this game versus gets the loss. It's going to be wild, honestly. It's going to be wild how much different the attitude is. Because like I've said before, there's a big difference in starting 2-1 versus 1-2. And you feel like you've got a swing game on your belt. You feel like you have a quality win off the jump. You have the chance to get a quality win off the jump. It's just going to do wonders, I think. You know, obviously for this football team, but for this fan base, for this program, for Will Muschamp. It's so important. It's so important for South Carolina to get this W. You take a look. Let's dive into the depth chart really quickly because one of our contributors, Anderson Dreyer, he's done a phenomenal job giving his projections for the Gamecocks offensive depth chart. And he was talking about South Carolina, his predictions for the depth chart, not necessarily right now, but later in the season once things have played out, once things have settled down. He's given his projections. So I kind of want to walk through these and give you guys, again, since the last show before game week, I just want to take a stab at my projections, how I think this depth chart is going to shake out, not later in the season, but for this game against Tennessee, what I think the depth chart is going to look at. And we're going to start offensively. And I've said this for weeks. I think QB1 is going to be Colin Hill. I think it's going to be Colin Hill. You know, I don't really understand why people think Colin Hill cannot throw the ball. I really don't. Go watch his film at Colorado State. He can spin it a little bit. I mean, the dude can spin it. There's no question. And for all the things I just mentioned about the Tennessee game, the importance of the Tennessee game, you know, I think Ryan, I mean, obviously, I'm a huge fan of Ryan. I think he's a great kid. I think he's a talented kid. I think he's really smart. But the reality is this. You can't tell me he knows the playbook like Colin Hill. There's just no way. Not at this point. There's no way that he knows the playbook as well as a, fourth-year, fifth-year guy in Mike Bobo's scheme. There's no way. There's no way he does. So with that being said, and I really felt like the longer the competition was tied, I felt like it favored Colin Hill. And with all the questions you have at wide receiver, at running back, I think you, and I don't have a preference, but I think you have to go with the guy that gives you the most options in regards to running a full playbook. So that's why I'm projecting I think Colin Hill will win the job. I really, really do. I think the competition of this is great. The competition aspect is fantastic. We're probably going to find out tonight on the Will Muschamp call-in show, Mike Bobo sitting in for Will Muschamp. I have to imagine he's going to announce it because the team is starting Tennessee prep today. But I have to imagine they're going to make that announcement. But I do think Colin Hill is going to be QB1. I really, really do. I really think he's going to be QB1. Again, knowledge of the playbook. The guy can obviously spin it a little bit. Just the way that they've talked about things, I think it's Colin Hill's job right now. Could that change during the course of the season? Absolutely 100%. But I think right now, it is his job. Let's move to the running back position. I think from what I've heard from people, Deshaun Fenwick's RB1. And I've heard Rashad Amos is RB2. The question in this is, how much of a factor does Zaquandre White play? Because, hearing him have a great scrimmage last weekend, how does he factor in? I heard from my guy that was in the building, my source that was inside the building, big insider guy over here. But my source was in the building, said that Zaquandre White looked great. I mean, north and south runner, loves contact, looks like a grown man is the way he called him. Looks like a grown man running the football. So he's the X factor. How does he factor in? Obviously, you have Kevin Harris as well. But I think right now, from everything I've heard, I'm going with Deshaun Fenwick at running the RB1 position. But everybody's going to play. Everybody's going to play, no doubt. Now, the wide receivers, huge question mark. I am not going to include Jalen Brooks in this because I'll be honest with you guys, I don't think he's going to be eligible. We are terrible with the NCAA. I am not holding my breath here. Unfortunately, I do not think they're going to deem him eligible, which is stupid. It's messed up. And I know a lot of people have reached out on or tweeted at me or commented, well, wasn't this the guy, the wing, the whole Jalen Brooks gate, the whole Wingate gate when that happened? Listen, I said what I said. I'm not going back over it, but I mean, I'd still like the kid to be eligible. I mean, I feel for the kid. The kid deserves to play. If there's other guys getting their eligibility, he should be able to play. But at wide receiver, your top guys, I think Shi Smith, Xavier Legette are the number 1, number 2. I think Rico Powers at number 3. I'll be honest with you guys. From there, I think it's a crapshoot. I could see Luke Doty in the 4 spot. Does Josh Vann take the 4 spot? Does Dak Joyner? Mike Wyman, Jakari Caldwell. That's been a big freshman they've been talking about. I think he could be in the top 5 rotation. I think Mike Wyman could crack in that top 5 rotation. So, kind of how it looks for the wide receivers. And again, that's a group that we all know has a lot to prove. Tight ends, no surprise here. Nick Muse, tight end 1. He's going to be the leader of that group. I think he's going to be your starting tight end. I do think Keyshawn Toney will register behind him. That's a pretty solid group. But Nick Muse is who it's really going to fall on. As far as the offensive line, I've been really high on this group. I'm really high on the Gamecocks offensive line group. I do agree with Muschamp. I think it's the best offensive line South Carolina's had in his tenure. Jason Turnantine, Sadarius Hutcherson, Eric Douglas, Jovan Gwynn, and Dylan Wanham left to right. And then you got Ja'Kai Moore, Vincent Murphy, Hank Manos, Jordan Rhodes, Jalen Nichols. I think you do have a solid group of guys here. I think you have a very solid group of guys on the offensive side, especially the offensive line. Let's move to the defense really quickly. Defensive line, I do think you're looking at, as far as the defensive ends, I think you are looking at Aaron Sterling. And again, this is guys can play different. They can play end, they can play buck, whatever. I think you're looking at Aaron Sterling. I think you're looking at Brad Johnson. I think Kingsley Nibari, who can slide in and out. Those would be my lead guys as far as your pass rushers. Those are guys that are going to need to get after the quarterback. Your buck position, Jordan Birch, obviously. Damani Staley, Rodriguez Fenton, Brad Johnson also. Feel good about that group. And obviously Jordan Birch is the guy we're all going to be kind of watching for. How much does he play? What type of impact does he make in his first year? For sure. Inside, I think they're probably going to roll with Keir Thomas and Jabari Ellis to start out. Now, listen, I know a lot of people are saying, Chris, what are you talking about? I think Muschamp's going to give the early nod to his seniors. I really do. I think Muschamp's a big loyalty guy. And I think he's going to give that nod to his seniors. But Zach Pickens is going to be right in there. And Zach Pickens might steal a starting job before it's all said and done. I think he probably will. You've also got Alex Huntley, Devontae Davis. You have a lot of good quality depth inside here. So I like what I see from the defensive tackles. Linebackers, no surprise here. Ernest Jones, Sherrod Green. Who is that third guy? Is it Mo Kaba? Does Rosendo Lewis finally step up? Is it Damani Staley? Do you slide Brad Johnson over to the linebacker position? But Ernest Jones, certainly the leader of this group. And this should be one of the better group of linebackers Carolina's had in a few years, I think, honestly. And then defensive backs, of course. J.C. Horn and Izzy on the outside. And these guys can all play different positions, obviously. But Cam Smith, John Dixon, Shiloh, Joey Hunter, those guys will all factor in. I think Jammy at the nickel spot for sure. And again, Cam, John, and Shiloh can play those positions. At your safety spots, I think R.J. Roderick being your lead safety there. Maybe Jalen Dickerson is finally healthy next to him. Will Izzy slide back and play some safety? I think he probably will. I think guys in this secondary are going to move around. I mean, it's a great thing. It's a great part. South Carolina has a great problem. I mean, they have plenty of guys and not enough spots on the field to get them all. That's a good thing. Have a lot of good quality depth in that secondary. So, and then as far as punt returners or really specialists, obviously Parker White. I think Kai Kroger, we talked about him when I broke down special teams. I think he's going to be your starting punter. Kickoff return, I do think it's probably going to be Shi Smith. I think that's going to be your guy, Shi Smith. And then punt returner is an interesting one. I'm thinking it's probably Jammy at this point. I wouldn't be surprised to see Xavier Legette. I wouldn't be surprised to see J.C. Horn get the ball. But right now, I would probably go with Jammy. So, yeah. That's it for the depth chart. Again, just breaking that down. It gets you excited. I mean, there's a lot of good quality depth on this team. Now it's just all about putting that on the field and getting some wins. One other thing really quickly before we get into news and notes. Again, sort of a shorter show today. Just kind of that gap show between off-season and game week, if you will. But I posed this question on social media, and the poll has a while for it in, so we're just going to get a really small sample size here. But I just asked the question, how many games are you going to go to this year? The student ticketing policy was announced. We're starting to see tickets. We're starting to see tickets on SeatGeek, which if you need your tickets on SeatGeek, go to SeatGeek, use the promo code SPURSUP to get $20 off because them tickets are expensive and you're going to want to save every penny you can. But the tickets are on SeatGeek now, and they're online, period. And I asked the question, how many South Carolina football games do you plan on attending this season? 282 votes thus far, but again, the poll has 22 hours left, so whatever. It is what it is. 63% of you so far have said 0, followed by 19% of you saying 1 to 2. 9.6% of you said all of them, which is impressive, and 7.8% of you said 2 to 3. I would probably fall on the 1 to 2. I really want to get to at least 1, and the reason may sound selfish, but really, the reason is I want to go out there with the GoPro and take some content and be like, this is what a football game during coronavirus looks like. So, that's really why I want to go. And obviously, I want to go to watch my team as well, but that's one of the big reasons. But I'm curious to see how the tickets are this year. I mean, again, this is kind of an off-the-field side note thing, but what are the prices going to be like on tickets? You take a look right now. I think the cheapest game is Missouri, and it's like $100. I mean, outside of that, Tennessee, I think I saw is like $140. Georgia's like $250, and that's starting out, obviously. So, it's going to be interesting to see what that is like, how it makes the game day atmosphere different in 2020. Let's get into news and notes really quickly, your listener questions, and we'll get into our interview. News and notes. This does not pertain to South Carolina, but you know what? It's just such a great piece of news. Big Ten football is back. The Big Ten is back. Kudos to the Big Ten for finally figuring it out. Finally figuring it out. We know I've talked to different guys. I talked to both the Saturday Down South guys. We've been talking about this all offseason, obviously, and the Big Ten finally reversing course. I'll tell you this. I'm just more so happy for those fans and for those players. And I'm happy for, I'm sure there's people within the Big Ten who are similar to me, who have a business that revolves around the school and the team and stuff like that. And so I couldn't imagine, what they were going through. So to get that back, I'm elated for them. And also, man, just having more football. How could you be upset at that? So Big Ten football is back. Also, one quick funny note. If you guys didn't see on social media, the Spurs Up Show is going to be on College Game Day Saturday. Yes, College Game Day Saturday. Now, not on the actual show, obviously, not on the actual booth. But if you guys watched College Game Day last week or the week before, you're seeing they're having virtual fans or whatever. It looks like the fans are like on a Zoom call or something. You know what I mean? They're having virtual fans. Well, randomly watching College Game Day last weekend, I was like, I saw the thing, hey, go to our website, apply. I was like, screw it, I'll apply. Who cares? I won't get picked, whatever. Get an email. You've been selected to join ESPN's College Game Day. So I'm taking funny sign suggestions. I'm going to make a sign. I'm going to be in the studio. I'm fired up, dude. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be hilarious, to be honest with you. I cannot wait. It's going to be very, very funny. So check out your boy. I have no clue what time it'll be, when they'll put me on, but check your boy out. Saturday, College Game Day. I can't freaking wait. I cannot freaking wait. It's going to be absolutely hilarious. Also, one last thing. Got to give a shout-out to the GOAT, Asia Wilson, named WNBA AP Player of the Year. Awesome stuff, man. Again, Asia Wilson, the GOAT, doing work for not just South Carolina basketball, but women's basketball in the state of South Carolina, what she's doing. She's literally the face of the WNBA. It is awesome, awesome stuff. It's awesome stuff. So, good job, Asia. The GOAT. Literally the GOAT. Arguably the greatest Gamecock of all time. All right. Let's get into your listener questions, and we'll get to the interview. Let's start. David_Barnes76. What uniforms do you think USC will wear week 1? Yes, so uniforms have been a hot topic, especially with me and my inner circle and people that I've talked to, that I talk Gamecock football with. Uniforms are a very hot topic. I'm hoping we're going to get a reveal for these new uniforms this week. But what uniforms will South Carolina wear for the Tennessee game? I think probably the Black Magic throwbacks. It's going to be some variation of black. Like, there's no doubt in my mind it's going to be some variation of black. So I think you're going to see black unis. I would not be shocked to see black helmets, but I think you're going to see some variation of black for sure. Everything_college_football_. Do you think the Louisiana head coach will be a good fit at South Carolina if Muschamp doesn't get it together? You're talking about Billy Napier. I don't know. He'd certainly be a candidate, somebody you could look at. I don't think he'd be my first choice, but, yeah, certainly. Look what he's done at Louisiana, taking their talent. You go on the road and beat the shit out of Iowa State. Yeah, guy knows how to coach. So definitely a candidate. We could, be an interesting hire for sure. Zach_Gale23. It is way too early to say this, but chances Billy Napier is our football coach next year. Another Billy Napier question. Chances I think are low because I think Muschamp is going to end up coming back. But again, he'll be a candidate. That's definitely somebody I think you bring. I think he's somebody you bring in for an interview. I really do. Last question here. CP3_presents_. Will the Gamecocks be ranked after beating Tennessee, and who would you rather see start at quarterback? If South Carolina beats Tennessee, I do not think they will be ranked. Even with – because, number one, they're going to put the Big Ten teams back in the poll. So, and Tennessee's not highly ranked enough to justify you should be ranked after beating them. So, no, I don't think South Carolina will be ranked. And you also asked, who do I want to see start at quarterback? I've said this – if I've said it once, I've said it 100 times. I truly don't care. Start the guy that gives us the best chance to win. Period, point blank. Start the guy who gives you the best chance to win football games. I have no preference. I'm playing no favorites. I don't care if it's 1-5 or if it's 3 or if it's 4 or if it's 5. I will support whoever's under center. Now, you got to play well enough to keep the job. But whoever QB1 is, just play the guy who gives you the best chance to win. Simple as that. So, appreciate the listener questions, guys. All right, we got a fantastic interview. Former Gamecocks wide receiver Tori Gurley. Again, Tori, a repeat guest of the show, someone who's not afraid to speak his opinion, which I definitely respect. Again, we talk his Carolina career, his NFL career. He gives us thoughts on Will Muschamp this 2020 season. Much, much more. Tori, always an awesome guy. He's always a fun conversation. And I appreciate Tori taking the time to join the show. Again, a guy who, love him, hate him. He's really good at what he does and somebody I really, really respect. And obviously respect him for his playing career at South Carolina as well. So sit back, relax, enjoy. It's all brought to you by our friends at Southern Oaks Remodeling. Guys, yes, a new sponsor, Southern Oaks Remodeling, locally and family-owned. Guys, right here in Columbia, South Carolina. I met the owner. Awesome dude. They're awesome people, and they do great work. Over 15 years of experience. They specialize in roofing, windows, doors, siding, and additions. So a little bit of everything. Anything you need at your home, you want to get revamped, you want to get remodeled, especially in a time like this. I feel like we've all got time to get that done. It tis the season, right? It's the season to get that thing done, whatever it may be. They can do it. Again, roofing, windows, doors, siding, additions. They're serving the greater Columbia area. So if you are in the Columbia area, Southern Oaks Remodeling is the way to go. Again, I met these guys. The next time that I have any sort of remodeling, anything going on, they're going to be my number one choice. Because listen, guys, when you're with a company, when you get a company like this to do anything, there's something as personal like this. They're coming into your home, they're remodeling, they're doing a job. You don't just want to partner with a company. You want to partner with people. And that's what I felt like when I met them. That was the difference. That's the Southern Oaks Remodeling difference. Again, locally and family owned. You know exactly what you're going to get. You're going to get that great same service they've been doing for over 15 years. Again, roofing, windows, doors, siding, additions. They can really do a little bit of everything for you. So the next time you are in the Columbia area, you're looking for a remodeling company, go to nowhere else. Talk to no one else. I'm telling you right now, talk to no one else than Southern Oaks Remodeling. Be sure to check them out. Give them a call. They're on social media. They're on Google as well. Just Google Southern Oaks Remodeling. They have a website as well you can check out. That's Southern Oaks Remodeling. Be sure to check them out for all of your remodeling needs in the Columbia, South Carolina area. And we appreciate Southern Oaks Remodeling for joining the show as the latest and newest sponsor. All right, guys, sit back, relax, enjoy this interview with former Gamecocks wide receiver Tori Gurley. All right, joining us today on the Spurs Up Show, a repeat guest, a great friend of mine. In case you guys didn't know, he played for the Gamecocks from 2008 to 2010, had 75 catches, 905 yards, and 6 touchdowns. Of course, he was part of the Gamecocks team that led them to the 2010 SEC East title. Also played in the NFL from 2011 to 2014 for the Packers, Vikings, Raiders, Bucks, Chargers, Ravens, Browns, Bills. He was all over the league. He also spent time in the CFL from 2015 to 2017 with Toronto, Winnipeg, and Ottawa, and he's also an on-air personality for Fox Sports Radio, does stuff with fantasy football. An influential guy in the media circuits, especially NFL, if you will. But again, of course, we've had him on the show before, former Gamecocks wide receiver Tori Gurley, and a good friend of mine. Tori, like I said, man, it's great to talk to you once again. It's been a while. How's everything been? How you been holding up during the quarantine and all this madness going on in 2020?
You know what? 2020 has been a crazy year, but I can't complain. Just recently got married to the love of my life.
Oh, congratulations. Congratulations.
My sugar Kim, we got married recently, and to make it even better, football just kicked off. So we got a lot of things to smile about, and especially in 2 weeks when the Gamecocks get to kick off against Tennessee. So we're just sitting back waiting on the SEC to get the season started.
Yeah, before we get into football, something just came to my mind that I always see. Anybody that follows you on social media, I'm sure knows what I'm talking about. But what's up with your Sunday fun day? You get after on the grill a little bit. I always see you flexing. You cooking the wings, cooking the chicken breasts. Like you're like a grill master over there.
Yeah, it was something that I've always been around it, but I've never been the one to cook. You know, I've been fortunate to have a family that's just they're big on celebrating. And with I guess COVID and 2020, the way things have shaped out, you know, I've been away from my family for a long time, so I just wanted to continue to keep the tradition alive. And I just started cooking out on the grill, you know, and it's been something that's been very relaxing. It gave me something to look forward to. And now with football season being here, the food tastes even better when you have, you know, some chicken wings on the grill, and then you get to come in, have a cold beer, and watch the guys play ball. So it just all started from that. So it's been like the gift and the curse of 2020. You know, it really made me hone in on, you know, domestic skills of making sure I take care of my home and being able to, just the little things we take for granted. And that's something I've really done. I've reached out to a lot of my former teammates since COVID just to let them know, man, I love them and I care about them, or just to support them in whatever they're doing. Usually, we act like we're so busy with our lives, but with everything somewhat being at a halt, it's just been a great time to reach out to people and let them know you're thinking about them.
Yeah, I was going to say, I know you really just want to flex on your former teammates, the cooking skills. I know that's what it comes down to. Now, let's move into football, Tori. Again, obviously, like I told you off air, we've talked about a lot of this stuff. You've been on the show, I think, twice now, so this is your third time, but it's always fun to talk about your Gamecock career. And I want to start specifically from the beginning. Again, you were a highly regarded prospect. Obviously, you're a big-bodied guy, big-body wide receiver, and I think it's interesting during the Steve Spurrier era, and I know you can attest to this. It's funny to see like the teams, the evolution of the teams going from some of the smaller, quicker guys to the bigger, like a guy like you, Alshon. But talk about, you get recruited by Steve Spurrier. He's a legend. You know what you're getting yourself into when you play for Coach Spurrier. He's going to be hard on you. He's tough on his wide receivers, but you know you're going to get the football. They're going to throw it around. But just talk about the overall recruiting process, what that was like, why you chose South Carolina.
What I tell all young athletes is enjoy that process, because it's so much fun when you really connect with your class. And that's something that was a huge blessing, man. When I showed up on campus for my visit, I had Melvin Ingram, I had Terrence Campbell, I had Eric Norwood, Kenny McKinley, Jason Barnes. I had so many guys showing me around where, when I went back home, I told my parents, hey, I'm coming to South Carolina. Columbia was just beautiful. And just hanging around the coaches and seeing how Sidney Rice was a big body receiver, basketball type frame, and how he was able to win the jump balls. And I always admired Sidney, and I was like, I want to be the next Sidney. So, with that whole process playing out, it was a match made in heaven. And honestly, it opened up the doors for more Rock Hill, South Carolina guys to come in there, and just it was a pipeline to the NFL. So a lot of people don't know this, but, I was the guy that recruited Stephon Gilmore and Jadeveon Clowney as well. It was something that every time I went home, there was conversations I had with those guys. Like, hey, man, make sure you come 77 South, man. We'll take care of you off Bluff Road. Just make sure you get here, and I got you. And I'm so happy for those guys, because they're doing extremely well in their careers right now.
Yeah, I was going to say the Rock Hill to South Carolina connection at that time. I mean, you talk about, because, guys like Gilmore, I think specifically Devontae Holloman was a guy that flipped from Clemson to Carolina. Like, South Carolina just owned that South Point, that Rock Hill area. I mean, that was a huge, huge pipeline for Gamecock football. I want to talk to you about, again, you had a great career at South Carolina, but it was really interesting, Tori. I know we talked about this before, but just how it started for you. Remind me again what year it was specifically, but what was it? You had like 4 or 5 times that you had a touchdown that it got called back. Like you literally couldn't buy a touchdown due to penalties or whatever else was going on.
Yeah, I had a couple of them that was self-inflicted on myself. I had one that was self-inflicted. It was a offensive pass interference. That was against NC State, but the other 3 were literally just a holding penalty here, a legal formation there. Just
you're like, what do I have to do to get a touchdown? Like, what do I have to do?
Ineligible lineman downfield on a screenplay. It was one of those things where it really frustrated me, but it really made me appreciate scoring. It made me appreciate every catch, every yard, because those are things that, as a fan, it's easy to take for granted. And to have those things taken away from me, it truly made me appreciate the following year when the things did count in meaningful games. And that's how we were able to go out and really make some noise for the university.
Now, let's talk about Steve Spurrier, because I've had one of your former teammates, I'm sure a guy you bonded well with. You actually mentioned him, Mo Brown, on the show. And Mo is a character, and he's doing great things now, obviously, doing what he's doing in the political field and everything. But Mo is a character, for those that don't know. He's a funny guy. And and I've heard from other guys too. Steve Spurrier, like I mentioned, super tough on his wide receivers. I mean, you dropped a pass, you did not want to be in that film room with Steve Spurrier the next day. But just talk about your relationship with him, against Steve Spurrier Jr. being the wide receivers coach, and just that offensive dynamic. I mean, you guys really had it rolling, and obviously it all peaked in 2010 with Steven Garcia under center. But just talk about being a wide receiver in a Steve Spurrier offense, and just what he demands from his pass catchers.
Honestly, he was harder on Garcia than us, and the reason why is because we really made those plays. I mean, it really wasn't a lot for him to coach. He taught us some things about beating coverages or whatever, but something that I take pride in, and I'm quite sure you talked to any of those guys in 2010, we embraced bully ball. And what I mean by that is we weren't afraid to get in people's faces, to knock guys out, and to go across the middle of the field. A lot of people, when they think of Alshon, they think, oh, he was just a one-handed guy on the sideline. But if you go back and watch where our bread was buttered, he ran a lot of slant patterns. I ran a lot of slant patterns. We did a lot of things in the middle of the field, and that's how we was able to control defenses to where when we went play action, everybody wanted to bite down on Marcus, and it was fair game. So, but from a standpoint, he just wanted us to be in the right spot. You know, he didn't want us to freestyle too much, but once we earned his trust and respect, it was pretty easy going. And same thing from Spurrier Jr. He was just so excited to coach guys that were our size because that was something he's never done before. You know, everyone was like Ace Sanders or Kenny McKinley. So when you have the goon squad out there just kind of, you know, bullying linebackers and plowing through for Marcus to get those additional yards, man, that was the dynamic of our football team that's yet to be imitated. And that's something I hope they could get back to because it really opens up so much in the pass game and the run game.
Yeah, one of my favorite quotes I've ever heard Steve Spurrier say, and it was about wide receivers. And, you know, I'm not calling out the guys now or, you know, since the Spurrier era, but I just think it's so interesting because, you know, we talk a lot about wide receivers obviously every single year, and it's a big-time position. But Steve Spurrier, not only – he would talk about – I remember specifically, I think he was talking about Pharaoh Cooper, just in general, but he would talk about his receivers. He wasn't just talking about them catching the ball. He said, we don't make enough 50-50 catches. We don't make enough tough catches. And kind of what you're to the point you're making about, you know, being tough, getting in people's faces. It's like, no, Steve Spurrier, I just feel like he demanded his receivers to go make plays. I mean, there's no excuse. Like, he wants you to come down with that 50-50 ball. You should get that more often than not. Like, and that's what made the offenses so good. And, you know, you guys' receiving core is so good. I mean, it's not just that, oh, you're getting beat off the line and your guys getting over. No, if it's a 50-50 ball, like with a guy like Alshon, yourself, Ace, I mean, they're going to come down with it. Damiere Byrd. Like, the perfect play, I think, that summarizes that is Damiere Byrd, 2012, the Georgia game. He goes up, Bakari Rambo looks like he has the pick, and what does Byrd do? He just rips it away from him. And that's kind of what Spurrier talked about when he was talking about wide receivers and making those tough catches.
Yeah, and that's something that it can be coached, but it's really amongst a group of guys. And that was something that we did a great job of. I mean, seriously, when you had leaders like Mo Brown, Jason Barnes, Kenny McKinley, we had all these different type of personalities to help mold us. So when it was our turn for myself and Alshon and all the DL Moore and you just name Wesley Saunders, you name all the pass catchers, we were really about that life. Like, it didn't matter who was standing in the middle of the field. We were going to come down with the ball. We were going to scream in people's faces. And when we weren't getting the ball, we were really laying hands on those defensive backs and linebackers to where they were always paranoid. I mean, that was something that I know I took the most pride in, was cleaning people up. And that right there, it was just so much fun because a lot of people don't know this, but Marcus Lattimore talks so much trash. You know, we all look at Marcus like, you know, he's, you know, President Barack Obama, but on the football field, that guy, he's a dog. And that's what made him arguably one of the best running backs in the country, was that whenever he embraced contact, he always fell forward. So I just remember hearing those little conversations or being able to poke people in the eye or hit people in the throat and do little stuff like that where the camera never caught, but it was just those little battles that's what gave us that edge, and that's why we were able to really do the things we did back in 2010.
Now, you mentioned the goon squad. I want to ask you, because, again, those defenses, those DBs specifically, were just nasty at that point. Who were the guys you remember specifically going up against one-on-one, or guys that maybe not necessarily gave you trouble, but great battles? Because I think back, you mentioned Eric you mentioned Eric Norwood. Yeah, you mentioned Norwood before. Norwood, I mean, we talked specifically about the story where the defense got thrown out of practice, and like that was a nasty group, man. Like, they loved it. I mean, they love. He was telling me like we love taking Spurrier off and just laying into the offensive guys. I mean, and that's only going to make your team better when you have that type of competition every single day in practice.
I can tell you the matchups. This is how it went. In one-on-ones, Alshon Jeffrey, Stephon Gilmore. That was one-on-one. Then it was myself and Chris Culliver. And then after that, it would be Akeem McGusty and Jason Barnes. And then we would have Wesley Saunders going against DJ Swearinger. And literally, me naming those 8 to 9 guys, I think like 8 out of 9 were in the NFL. So those were the type of epic battles we had every day. And it mattered. Like every rep mattered. And anytime the guys, it can be an incomplete pass. Like the quarterback could throw a bad ball. And I will still hear Stephon being like, I told you can't catch nothing on me. He always spoke under his breath. He doesn't scream or whatever, but he just say little slick
He
stuff
seems like a quiet guy in the league, too. He's just a very take care of his business kind of guy.
Yeah. He's not gonna talk your head off, but he's gonna let you know he's there. Right. He's like, oh yeah, you slow. It's so annoying because you have Akeem McGusty on the other side and he's just chirp, 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 chirp. Him and DJ with 2 spoons. Like we all the celebrations, all the antics of what these guys are doing in the NFL, all that stuff started on the proving grounds out there in Columbia. And those battles are something that really it brought us closer as a team. That's why we had that chemistry, and we felt like no one could beat us because we knew we were just as talented as our opponents.
Now, Tori, I think it's kind of ironic we're talking today because I was actually earlier today watching some clips from South Carolina scrimmages or whatever, some of their media availability, and it's so funny. One of my suggested videos that came up on YouTube, it was from one of the TV stations in Columbia, and the video was 2010. It was the video when you guys got back to Williams-Brice after beating Florida to clinch the SEC East. Just talk about that again. You beat Florida. You're carrying Steve Spurrier off the field. I mean, the reaction you guys got when you got back to Williams-Brice. I mean, that's got to be something. That's got to be one of those memories that you'll just never forget. That's something I wish every South Carolina football player can experience because it took us off guard. Obviously we knew we were going to celebrate flight from Gainesville back to, Columbia Airport. And I just never forget, like when we got off the plane, we saw all these people and it was like, all right, well, maybe it's just some fans that decided to, hang out and wish us well. And literally the closer we got to the stadium, it looked like a game was going on. I'm like, why are all the lights on in the stadium? And they're like, bro, they're here for us. And literally when we pulled up, it was 30, 40,000 fans inside Williams-Brice just to congratulate us on a job well done of clinching the SEC East. And I just remember just partying and celebrating with my teammates and hugging Coach Spurrier. And, we were so confident. We were like, man, we're in the SEC championship and, we're one game away from BCS. Back when I played, it was BCS, Sugar Bowl and stuff like that. Now it's the college football playoff. But, anytime you can use those 3 letters together, man, that lets you know you were on pace to do something special. Now, like you said, you wish every South Carolina football player could get that feeling. Talk about the feeling, man, going to the SEC title. I mean, going to the Georgia Dome, which it's crazy. Georgia Dome's not even there anymore. Now it's Mercedes-Benz. But going to the Georgia Dome, I know it didn't go the way you wanted. I mean, listen, Cam Newton, he turned into Superman. I mean, there's not much you can really do. And we see Cam Newton is still doing it. So, I mean, there's I think it probably doesn't make you feel quite as bad when you're like, yeah, that guy turned out to be pretty good. But just to go to Atlanta, man, I mean, I saw an old picture a few months ago and just seeing Carolina in the end zone in the Georgia Dome. I mean, it just takes you back, man. It's just one of those awesome things. You'll never wipe away that memory. You know what I mean? It's an all for fans, for you guys. I mean, I'm sure that has to be something, again, that that experience will just never fade away. Oh, most definitely. We hold it near and dear to our heart because we worked extremely hard for that. And being in Atlanta and just the atmosphere. I mean, it was when you watch it on television, it does it no justice by actually being there in person and all the festivities that surround the SEC championship game and walking through the tunnel of the Georgia Dome to go in there for game day. It truly felt like the national championship. I mean, I see why whoever loses in the SEC championship usually loses in their bowl game, their play, because it's such a letdown, like after the fact, because it doesn't get any better than that. I mean, most of the times when the team win the SEC championship,
they're going to win the national championship as well, because it just propels you. And it's the opposite for when you lose. But, obviously it was meant for Cam Newton to have that historic run. I mean, this guy came out of nowhere. He went from Blinn Junior College to leading Auburn to an undefeated season. I mean, at Auburn, we had them down 21-0, and they come back and beat us 28-24. And then in the SEC championship game, things just fell into place for him. Like, I never forget that Hail Mary before halftime. And that
was the one that did it. That was the one that did it.
When we went back to the locker room, we were like, we just can't do anything with this guy. I mean, he's bigger than all our linebackers. He's the same size as our D-line. And he was just a one-man team. And, hats off to him. But what we did was special. I mean, Steven Garcia, I always regard him as the best quarterback of all time. And the reason why is because when he got us to the Atlanta, I mean, no one else has ever done that. You can sit there and throw out all the stats, but the stats that truly matter is who won the SEC East and who got us to Atlanta. So that's something that, I always hold a spot for Steven, because he did that. So many people doubted him, and they told him, he's just another guy. He's just a guy, and really he was a leader. Now, there were some decisions he made along the way that I'm quite sure he wish he can get back. But when it came to dressing up on Saturdays and bringing it, he wasn't afraid of the big moments. So, that's something we was able to rally behind. And I think that's why, our team is so close still to this day.
For sure. Now, you talked a lot about the NFL, and I want to talk briefly about your professional career. I know a lot of your former teammates and a lot of guys from those teams obviously played in the league. But like I mentioned, you played for a bunch of different teams from 11 to 14, played in the CFL 15 to 17. Obviously, you're still very involved with the National Football League. Just talk about your time playing in the league, because, again, you obviously made an impact. I know we talked before it didn't go exactly the way you wanted, but I think it's just interesting to hear from guys that played in the league, because people don't understand how much of a business it is, how much that factors into it. But I'm sure you had some great experiences along the way as well, and I would say you definitely proved that you belonged at that level. But from going to the NFL, CFL, and now working, alongside, I would say, working with the NFL in some capacity, not necessarily directly with them, but still talking NFL football, just kind of overall talk about your experience with professional football.
It was one of the greatest experiences of my life. Now, as a kid, you dream of being the franchise player, being a first-round draft pick. But as you get older, you realize, like, how difficult it is just to be a professional athlete. And with me having that opportunity, there were some things I wish I could do again. And what I mean by that is maybe when I was in Green Bay, I wish I would have stuck it out. Unfortunately, I got pissed off because they wanted to practice squad me instead of putting me on the active roster. And literally, the only thing I had to do was just wait my time. Like, if I just would have waited, I would have got to play with arguably the best quarterback of all time. I would have got to play with the GOAT. And with me making some personal decisions, I don't blame anyone else. I just blame myself. It was just a maturation stage of learning, like, how the business works in the NFL. Like, there were times where I was better than a first or second round draft pick, but that makes the team look bad if undrafted. There a situation in Cleveland. Josh Gordon was our guy. He was our stud, and I used to help line Josh Gordon up. Like, Josh couldn't get out of the huddle. Well, I used to talk to him like, "Hey, Josh, go here, go there." So, but what that ended up teaching me was that there are other things in football that I can still benefit from. Like, I was able to learn many playbooks in a short amount of time and to understand how the game go, as well as create relationships that'll last a lifetime. And now with me being on air, I can always go back to those memories or those, those conversations I've had with people, and it brings it right to light. So, the NFL is a business, and I wish everyone well when they come to the league, because something that's guaranteed is they're going to ask you to leave. There are two guarantees of bonus, or three things. Your signing bonus, you're going to get hurt, and they're going to ask you to leave. So, I wish for everyone that gets that shot, make as much money as you can and take care of your chicken, like Marshawn Lynch said, and retire and get into TV, man, because life is good, man. I'm 33 years old and retired. I don't call doing TV and podcast and radio work. I don't call it work. I mean, I'm going to talk about sports regardless, but I'm actually getting paid for this, and that's something that it's a blessing, and I don't take for granted. I make sure I wake up 5 o'clock every morning. I literally watch every NFL game. A lot of people think I just talk out the side of my neck, but I put in as many hours as I did as being a player of being on top of my stuff, what I'm talking about. And I get to have conversations with you during the week.
Absolutely. So, Tori, I want to move into this current South Carolina football team. Obviously, again, we're talking here on a Monday. We're just 12 days away from kickoff. And I want to talk to you again about this year's Gamecocks football team. And before we do, it's so funny to see it's a blessing and a curse because, again, we both kind of live for the engagement, the views, the interaction, stuff like that. It only helps business, right? It only helps your brand. It only helps what you're doing. But I think you and I both experienced the madness that can ensue, especially in a season like last year where, let's just be honest, shit hit the fan. We both have our opinions on Will Muschamp, and what's been said is what's been said. I tell everybody my thoughts are very well documented, and I'm sticking to that. But I want to say first, one thing you said last season that I don't know why you caught flack for it, but this quote should literally be, I feel like, imprinted on the stadium, which is, you can't be a killer when you sleep on silk sheets. That's like the one thing you said last season. That was my favorite thing you said. And it was after the UNC game, and obviously we're all emotional. I mean, that was my whole Fire Muschamp rant. And we're all emotional because you've been looking forward to the season 8 months, and you lay an egg like that. And I think we all had the right to say what we said, and I think we were all accurate. But, my man, that quote, that's the one thing you said last season that sticks out to me. And it just, people – again, it's all quick trigger, quick to react. Everybody's so emotional in football season, but there's a lot of truth to what you said. There's a lot of truth to what you said as far as guys getting comfortable and they really haven't earned anything and, feeling like the shit don't stink. And, it's so funny. You're 33, I'm 29, but I used to be told, don't read your press clippings. Don't read your press clippings. Don't buy into the hype that people are giving you. Keep focused, keep locked in, whatever. And I feel like now, and it's not just South Carolina, but it's like the culture we're in, and especially in college football, guys don't just read their own press clippings. They engage in them. They love it. They love to read their own press clippings. And so, it kind of goes back, again, I think you made a great point. It's like guys are getting fat and happy, and they're buying into how good they are. And, when you lose a game like that UNC game last year, that it shines that light on it. But long story short, I just wanted to tell you that was one of my favorite quotes when you said last year is killers do not sleep on silk sheets. That's bottom line. That needs to be like on a T-shirt somewhere, I feel like.
The reason why I said that is because I've lived it.
Yeah.
We did more with less. And what I mean by that, we didn't have all that shiny stuff when I was in school. And I'm not mad at those kids for that. That's just what college football has turned into. But if I had anything to do with the football program or if I was running a team, I would pull back on some of the amenities these guys have. You don't need a golf course. You don't need a Darius Rucker studio. If you want to make music, go be in a band. You're here on a scholarship to play football. There are so many things that go into it. If you want to learn how to cook, go to culinary school. We don't need all this. We need you here to be locked in each and every week to play football. All this video game stuff. Man, we had a deck of cards and one PlayStation. You go in there now, ice hockey and cornhole. No, this is not a vacation. I understand they want to make the facilities very appealing for guys to be like, oh, look at my jersey, look at my helmet, look at all this swag. But what swag is when you go out there and you don't lose to the in-state rival in 4 years, 5 years. That's swag. When you go out and go beat the number one team in the country. When you go out there and impose your will on opponents who you're supposed to beat and give yourself an opportunity to play for meaningful football games. That's what swag is. That's when the fans will love you. So many guys, they get caught up in their followers or the engagement of social media to where the game is not won on there. This whole thing is really have a lot of guys confused. And when they go to the NFL, man, it hurts them because they're worried about the wrong thing. Keep the main thing, and that's football. Football and school and football, they go hand in hand. But all the other stuff, it's not going to help you. Who remembers, no offense, but who remembers the players from the teams that didn't win?
Yeah.
You know, like to this day, I can go to Columbia and people, the first thing they talk about is, hey man, you never lost to Clemson. And I remember exactly where I was at when we beat Alabama, wherever it was, anywhere in the world. So many people, you know, talk about that, and that's a legacy that's left, and that's something that I want those guys to experience. But the only way that's going to happen is if the guy up top pulls back and like, you know what, let's get back to the meat and potatoes. And that's what type of coach I thought he was. But you know, the way the things have worked themselves out, he just isn't that guy. I think he's a great person, but when it comes to football and winning games, I don't think he's the best guy for the job.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, too, again, speaking to what you said, and I already kind of mentioned it, but it's not even just speaking to South Carolina, but it's a culture thing. It's a college football thing. It's, you know, just this generation thing. And again, we're not that old or anything, but it's just like the way social media has changed. You know, we live in a world where people say, oh, you know, the coaches can't put a social media ban on guys because you can't take away their voice, or, you know, I think there should be a social media ban. I think it's ridiculous, and it's a bad look. I mean, I've seen players get in spats with fans, and like, you know, I'm not sure. I know you're well versed in Twitter, but name searching, I've seen guys like go name search themselves to see what people are saying about them, even if they don't tag them in the tweets or whatever, and they're liking tweets that are like talking shit back to the people that are talking shit about them. And it's like, how can you play? How can you be mentally locked in when you're consuming all of that? You know what I mean? So I think there's a great point to it. Now, you mentioned Coach Muschamp, and I agree with you, and I've said before, people think, oh, my God, you hate Will Muschamp. Oh, you hate him. I think he's a great dude. I think he runs a great program from Sunday to Friday, but he gets paid to win on Saturdays. And you and I, again, have both shared our opinions. We both think to this point, and listen, I would say to anyone, and I've said this before, but believing that Will Muschamp is all of a sudden going to turn into a great head coach and that he's going to have a great offense, that's the bold take. It's not bold to say that what we've seen the past 8 years is going to happen in the 9th year, and it's going to happen in the 10th. You know, I equated to this. You take a girl out on 8 dates, and she's not a great person. What do you expect that 9th time? She's shown you who she is. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I know it's a funny example, but I'll ask you on the flip side. Will Muschamp's the lead storyline this year. I think with everything with the pandemic, who knows what happens as far as if they make a move, they want to pay the buyout. I know there's been economic, ramifications that has come from everything. But I'll ask you, what do you need to see from Will Muschamp this year? Is there a win number? Because, again, it's a 10-game conference-only schedule. Is there a number of wins you need to see? Is there something specifically on the field? Like, what would make you – I'm not saying necessarily completely do it, 180 and turn around on it, but just give you some hope that, hey, maybe this guy is evolving as a head coach and maybe South Carolina can reach some heights that I maybe didn't think were possible after last year.
If you just step down from the job, I'm just going to keep it as simple as that. And I'm not a hater. Like, Lord knows, like I've sat down with Coach Muschamp and, we've talked about media things. Like this isn't anything where I hate this dude. Like, he's a great person. And there are guys who played for Coach Muschamp that come to South Carolina, that come visit him, and they weren't South Carolina alum. Like, he has a great relationship with players, and his track record in the NFL is pretty good. He's getting a lot of guys drafted. But to exactly what you said, he gets paid to win on Saturday. And I just think the surrounding staff they have, I just think it's too many Georgia guys in the building. Like, I say it once and I say it again. It seems like we're the University of South Carolina, Georgia, Columbia campus. All those guys majority of those guys are Bulldogs, or you got some Florida Gators in there. I think it's one Gamecock on staff. That's Rod Wilson.
Yep, Rod Wilson.
And then Connor is not on field, so he's more of, the life coach. And I think that hurts because it takes a Gamecock to know a Gamecock. And whenever this is what I mean by that. We're sandwiched by so many SEC schools. You have Alabama, Georgia, Florida, Tennessee, all in our radius. And we're battling against in-state top 5 school in Clemson.
And North Carolina with Mac Brown's coming back. And
North Carolina. So if you're a recruit, you're not thinking about going to the University of South Carolina. I'm sorry, like it's just if you're a 5-star, you're trying to play at one of those places. And usually what happens is that they go to a top player and they're like, all right, I got to sit on the bench at Alabama, or I got to sit on the bench at Georgia. So I'll settle with South Carolina. And I think that's the problem. I think we're getting guys that are settling because they can come in and play right away. Because to a fan, a 5-star is like, oh my goodness, we can throw this 5-star in the game. He's ready to play. But what made my class and the class a couple of years after me so special was that a lot of the dudes we had were 2 and 3 stars. The only 5 stars we had was Marcus, Stephon, and then Clowney. But when you go look at Melvin Ingram, you go look at Eric Moore, at Kenny, Jared Cook, you go look at all these guys. We were 2 and 3 star guys. Steven Garcia, and we had that chip on our shoulder where we wanted to go out and prove to the Nick Sabans, the Mark Ricks, the Urban Meyers that, okay, you didn't recruit me because you thought I wasn't good enough. Well, this is my chance to get back at you. And that's why in 2010 we had that run the way we did, because it was more of a redemption tour. Like, we're going to prove it to everybody that told us we weren't good enough to play here. And that's why we were able to make as much noise as we did. And then the players end up coming with the top, with the 4 and 5 stars. But for the most part, man, our nucleus and our core guys were 2 and 3 stars. And I feel like we don't do a good job of recruiting those type of players in our area. I think for the most part, the first thing they want to do is leave the state to go recruit. And it's like we're missing out on the guys that go to go to the Georgias or go to the Appalachian States or whatever, and they go ball out. We're like, damn, we could have had them at South Carolina, but, we're out there chasing the 5-star guys. So, that's something it takes a Gamecock to know one. And if it was up to me and I was on the staff, I would have coaches that played at South Carolina, because we understand what that chip on our shoulder is.
For sure. And I want to point something out you said earlier, too, about Muschamp, is that I think what the problem is, and one of the trigger points, is people take it so personal when you make the comments like you said. And what people, I think, have to understand is, and listen, I understand it, and I've learned this, Tori, doing what I do, and I know you already know this, but with college athletics, it's so much different than NFL. Because NFL, you can just call a guy a bum. You don't have – you can – hey, Eagles lose yesterday to the Redskins. I'm seeing everything about Doug Peterson. Carson Wentz is the worst. I saw somebody say Carson Wentz is a waste of a human being. Nobody bats an eye, right? Because he's paid. He's paid very handsomely to do what he does. But at the college level, it's a lot different. Coaches are like family. Players are like your kids. Hey, I had somebody point this out. In recruiting, every player is good. Have you ever heard of a recruiting service when a school gets a commit go, that kid's really not that good, that's a bad pickup for them? You would never do that. Nobody would ever do that, right? Correct. So it's a lot different. But what people have to understand is when you make like the statements you made about Muschamp, give your opinions on it. When I give my opinions on it, it's literally nothing personal. But when you get paid over $4 million a year to do a job and you're not getting that job done, and you're at a school like South Carolina, I said this to somebody on social media the other day. The beauty about this Will Muschamp thing, because it's polarizing to talk about it, because I feel like the fan base, for whatever reason, so split on it. They're so split on it. But the beauty about it, it's going to play out in the field, because South Carolina has too good of resources and facilities. They got too loyal of a fan base. They're in the best conference in the country, and there's too much talent to accept anything less than winning. So he's either going to win or get fired. Like, there's no middle ground there, which I guess is calming in a sense for me, because it's like we're not going to have to, I guess, go back and forth on it forever. But I do want to ask you if things are going to turn around for Muschamp, because to me 5-5 is that number this year that they have to get to show progress, in my opinion. Because even if they're not going to give him the boot because of the COVID stuff, whatever, because of the pandemic and the economic stuff, this is a huge year. It's a huge year for his head coaching career. It's a huge year for his career at South Carolina. If they're going to get to that 5-win mark or better, it's going to be because of Mike Bobo. And again, I know he's a Georgia guy. He was at Georgia forever. Heck, he was the Georgia OC when you were at South Carolina. So I want to ask you, and again, you're not a defensive guy, so I'm sure you weren't watching film on Georgia's offense, but is there anything specifically you remember or you can recall about Mike Bobo from when he was an OC at Georgia in the SEC? Because I feel like playing in the league, like you know these guys, you bump into them, you kind of know of them, and then Mike Bobo going to Colorado State. But is there anything that you can point to that you remember specifically about Mike Bobo? What would you like that would lead you to what you're expecting this year at South Carolina? Like, what do you think of that hire overall? And I guess just what you're expecting from Mike Bobo this year for Carolina.
I would say any system will work if you have the right talent around. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is when Mike Bobo really was rolling, no pun intended, he had guys like Noshawn Marino, had guys like Muhammad Massaquoi and A.J. Green with Matthew Stafford at quarterback. I don't think we have any of that at our school. I mean, so that's the highlight of Mike Bobo, when you think of his offense coming to life. Now, it hurts when we missed out, with Lattimore getting hurt, because whenever you do have a stud running back, it creates so much. You can scheme up, run game and play action to go with it. So now we have to rely on backs by committee, and that's something that's just yet to be proven. Over the past few years, you really can't tell the difference between the running backs that play. I mean, no one really stood out where it's like, oh my goodness, we got to continue to get him carries, and that's something that I'm waiting to see on offense. And then same thing from the quarterback position. We were extremely high on Ryan Helinski, and now he's in a quarterback battle, and it's that hurts your morale when you go from being a 5-star guy to being benched, or outplayed
in a quarterback battle with a Colorado State transfer. I mean, let's just call it what it is, right?
Yeah. So that hurts you. Like you were regarded as a 5-star guy. You were starting as a freshman, and now you're on the bench. I don't know mentally how strong he's going to be able to bounce back from this, because athletes have egos, especially quarterbacks. And that's something that a lot of fans don't understand. Like you can only have one quarterback. Whenever you have two, that hurts the team, because you want to rally behind one guy. And then at wide receiver, we lost Brian Edwards. So I really want to see what Shi Smith is going to do and who else is going to step up. So it's to be decided, but I just think from this standpoint, try to run the ball as much as you can. I want to see our offensive line play better. I want to see those guys get nasty and fire off the ball. I felt like a lot of times we were getting pushed back, and it put us in weird situations where, we're in the shotgun in 4th and 1, and that's something that I never saw. Even Coach Spurrier, with him having a fun and gun offense, when our backs were against the wall, we were able to line up in I formation, and we had Patrick DeMarco as the lead blocker, and we had Marcus Lattimore falling forward for that inch or that yard. And it just all goes back on the mentality of the team, and that's where I think it's been a disconnect with Coach Muschamp, because it seems like he's a fiery guy and he's extremely aggressive, but those kids don't go out and play like it for 4 quarters. They might play for a quarter here and there, but to keep that fire the entire game, I've yet to see that in this run at South Carolina.
Yeah, and I think most fans' biggest fear, and I'd say it's justified, honestly. I mean, again, you mentioned you lose Marshawn Lloyd for this season, who I really thought was going to be the focal point of the offense. But, most fans' biggest fear, like you said, you can't run the Georgia offense at South Carolina. Like, you don't have Todd Gurley to give it to. You don't have Nick Chubb. You don't have those guys, right? So you're going to have to get creative. And I've said multiple times this offseason, as bad as it may sound, but it's the truth. There's question marks over the offense. Mike Bobo is going to try to be squeezing blood out of a rock. I mean, if Mike Bobo, if he can get this offense clicking, is going to show himself as one of the best OCs in the country, because he's going to have to assort all these puzzle pieces together to make a working, functioning offense. I do want to ask you, because, again, you play one of the best quarterbacks in school history in Steven Garcia, and I think we can both agree that Ryan Helinski last year, I thought he played pretty well for a true freshman. He definitely has those intangibles, the leadership qualities, especially what he's been through in his life. But, yeah, there's a quarterback battle going on right now. And I've said before, Tori, that I think if I had to put my money on it, I would say Colin Hill is going to be the starter just because of his experience in the Mike Bobo system. But I want to stick with Helinski because that's the guy who is the known right now. That's the guy that you watched last year. And I know we didn't get to talk like postseason or anything. So what was your take on Ryan Helinski, the way he played as a true freshman? And because, again, it was filled with a lot of highs, definitely a lot of lows as well. What was your take from how he played, and what do you feel like going from year 1 to year 2 were the biggest things you were looking for him to kind of grow and to get better and develop in, if you will?
I felt like his play was erratic because of the offensive coordinator and Brian McClendon. He never could get a rhythm. There would be times where Helinski drops back and he puts it right on the money. And then Coach McClendon would dial up a play where it takes him out of a rhythm, where he has to throw a short pass across the middle of the field, and he's throwing it too hard or is not getting there. It just seemed like he never could really – it was pedestrian at best. I think it put a lot of pressure on him to have to go out and just sling the ball around the yard, and you're not going to do that against SEC defenses. This is more times than not when you're going against a Nick Saban or Kirby Smart or, coach down there in Florida.
Dan Mullen.
Dan Mullen. I was going to say Urban Meyer. When you're going against guys like that, they know how to make you – they can give your offense a hard time, and that's a lot of pressure on an 18-year-old kid. So I think it's going to be extremely important for our offensive line to really fire off the ball and create lanes to where guys can run and throw. But if not, we're always going to be playing from behind, or it's behind the sticks or behind the scoreboard. And those athletes on defense, man, they're – as you can see, man, the SEC dominates the NFL with talent. If you look at guys who are getting drafted high, and you can't be out there throwing the ball 40 and 50 times. Like, it's not going to work. You're going to have a lot of interceptions, and you're going to have a lot of L's at the end of the year. So for Ron Helinski, I think he needs the right coordinator. If he gets the right coordinator and the right weapons around him, I think he's talented enough to make some plays and to be a winning quarterback. But until then, it doesn't matter. Hell, you can have Tom Brady out there. You gotta have the right pieces around him and the right play calls, because if not, he'll look bad as well.
For sure. Now, we could talk offense all day because there's so many questions, but I want to switch to the defensive side of the football. Now, Tori, I'm optimistic about this defense. I think there's talent all over the field in this defense. And again, you're an NFL guy, and I'm sure you kind of keep an eye on the draft projections, if you will. And J.C. Horn and Israel Muschamp have both received, first-round grades or, been projected as first-rounders from different guys, if you will, which, I mean, you got to love the high praise. I mean, that's awesome. I think they're both NFL-caliber dudes. But the defense as a whole, what I've said before is, listen, when you hired Will Muschamp, you knew the offense was going to be a question. You knew it was going to be pedestrian. The guy has never had a good offense. But outside of 2017, the defense has been very average. I mean, you look at the numbers last year. I mean, they're like 50th nationally, 60th nationally. They really didn't exceed in anything. I mean, you look at – I don't have it pulled up right now, but the SEC rankings. I mean, I'm talking about Israel Muschamp and J.C. Horn, and this is a team that ranked 12th in the SEC in pass defense with that type of talent. So what I've said, Tori, is I think it will be a bigger indictment on Will Muschamp in year 5 if that defense doesn't take a massive jump forward. Because of just simply, I mean, I know you lose Kinlaw and Wanham and Brunson. I know that, and those are 3 big-time guys. But there really, in my opinion, is no excuse for this defense not to be top half of the league with the talent you have on that side of the ball.
Yeah, I think to win any football game, you got to have edge rushers, and that's something that we haven't had a dominant edge rusher probably since Melvin Ingram and Clowney in that class. I mean, someone that could rush the edge.
Truly get after the quarterback. Get after the quarterback.
Yeah, not up the middle. Javon Kinlaw, obviously, was a first-round pick. But to have guys on the edge, I mean, that's important, because whenever you can get after the quarterback, now you're leaving it up for your DBs to make plays. And when you have guys like J.C. Horn and Israel, they can cover everything, But when you're not getting any pressure on those quarterbacks, man, you really leave yourself open to a lot of big plays, because those guys can only cover for so long. And it puts a lot of stress on the secondary, and that's something that you really don't see as guys being playmakers. When they get their hands on like catching interceptions, and then once they catch the interception, being able to take it to the house. Like, we really don't have guys that are playmakers like that. I mean, Sky was the last guy on defense that had a bunch of interceptions, but it's how many years has it been since he's been in school? So that's something that I really want to look forward to seeing out of Coach Muschamp and these guys that he went out and recruited, is who's going to be the guy that makes the play, not just make a tackle, because you're going to make a tackle by default, but who can get the takeaways and turn it into scores, because now you get the team, you get the morale involved, and if we do have fans, you give the fans something to look forward to when they're on defense. And that was something that I hate going back and saying, when I played, but literally when I played, if we didn't score on offense, it was okay, because we had guys on defense that could do they would literally take the ball out of the running back hands or go pick it off and take it the distance, or we'll have a punt returner and Ace Sanders that can get us points. So we've had multiple ways of scoring, and I feel like with Coach Muschamp and the Gamecocks, they struggle to score it every way.
For sure. And you definitely make a great point because, 2017 was the 1 year against South Carolina. I've mentioned that defense was really able to get the ball off of people. But for whatever reason, since then, you just haven't been able to hit those turnover numbers. I mean, even a guy like J.C. Horn, who I think he's a great talent. And a lot of people ask me, Chris, why does Israel McQuamu get so much more love than J.C. Horn? A lot of people think J.C. is the better player, I guess, more consistent. I'm like, he's gone 2 years and doesn't have an interception. I mean, you're not going to get the love when and he's had some opportunities to make those big plays. And listen, I've gone out on a limb. I think he gets a pick in the first game. I wouldn't be surprised, if you really want to go with a bold take, maybe he leads the SEC in picks. Like, I'd love to see that because we've harped on it so much. But it's like you said, when you have the opportunity to make the big play, the game-changing play, get the interception, recover the fumble, whatever it may be, it's something you got to do. You got to do. You got to make that play.
Just don't recover it. Pick it up and go score it.
Right.
Like guys have, you remember Melvin Ingram picking up a fumble and scoring, or Jadeveon Clowney, or when DJ Swearinger was hit with targeting a couple times, and literally the next drive he goes out and gets a pick six and kicks the ball in the stands. Or Stephon Gilmore going down the sideline and getting pick sixes. That's championship football. Though that's what you get paid for, and that's what win games, and that's just something that I don't see. And I sound like the old grumpy guy, but I know football well enough. I might not be a coach, but I've been paid a lot of money to practice and play games. I know what the hell I'm talking about. And the day when we have those type players on the field consistently doing that, we'll have a shot to beat anyone.
Now, I want to ask you, Tori, because a lot of people come at me and ask me, okay, you don't want Muschamp in there. And just to clarify, and I think you and I are on the same page in the sense of, like you said, he's a great dude, but if the goal is truly to get to Atlanta, which is what it should be, that should be the goal every single year. If the goal is to get to Atlanta, the moment you don't have the guy, you're just killing time. And I just don't think Will Muschamp's the guy to get back to Atlanta. I don't think that's a bold take by any stretch of the imagination. I know you don't think it's a bold take either. But it is what it is. But I want to ask you, because a lot of people love to ask me, well, Chris, okay, you don't want Muschamp. We know that. Who do you want to be the next head coach? Is there a name that you have in mind, or even what type of coach do you want to be the head coach at South Carolina? Because, Tori, I'll tell you, when people ask me, I don't have this laundry list of 10 names of the most, the hottest assistants in college football or whatever it may be. There's some fun names to throw around. But what I tell everybody, I'd prefer a younger, offensive-minded guy. Obviously, you have to be willing to bust your ass recruiting. If you don't recruit, you can't be a head coach in college football today. But, give me a young, offensive-minded guy running the spread. You have to be forward-thinking offensively. Coaches you have in mind for South Carolina, who are some guys you come to your mind when you think of coaches?
Well, I know a guy that's a Super Bowl champ. He's from South Carolina. Played at the University of South Carolina as a former NFL player, and currently he's on staff. I think if it was me, if I had control over who was the coach, I would go get Rod Wilson. He's already on staff, but I would have him there. He won a Super Bowl with the Kansas City Chiefs, and the way football is being played is it's five wide. You got to have the best athletes on the field, and I would make Rod the head coach. And I will ask him to go out and get guys from Kansas City, to pull them away from that program. And I would also surround him with a bunch of former Gamecock players who played the position at a high level, and just go out and recruit that way. And I feel like it was the same proven, but he understood he understand the nuances of what happens there at Clemson. And he was able to build a family environment. And, those guys have been rolling ever since. So why not do it with our own? Instead of us creating job opportunities for other people, how many Gamecocks, if I ask this question, how many former Gamecocks we have that's coaching in the SEC?
Yeah, not many.
Not many. But and I know a lot of guys that are more than capable that can do it, but for whatever reason, we have Gamecocks in the NFL. You have Deuce Staley. We have Travell Wharton. We have all these guys that we literally could – I'm quite sure we can find a way to get them home, or they can point us in the right direction of appointing people to be on staff at South Carolina. But I would literally try to do it that way so the fan base will understand we're trying to build something of our own instead of just giving a resume builder. And that's just something how I look at it. I truly look at it that way. I think I think the way things are set up at the University of South Carolina for the staff now, it's a resume builder where you can say you was an offensive coordinator or a defensive coordinator, and when you get canned, you go to another place and you get a coordinator job because officially you were a offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator in the SEC. And it's like, well, why not do that for our own players who really understand the game and know what it takes to win on Saturdays here and can really build around that.
For sure. I love it. Well, Tori, appreciate you taking the time, man. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, and I wish you obviously best of luck this year. I know you're extremely busy with the NFL being back, and we're all happy that just football's back in general, man. It feels good to watch football again on TV, but obviously you do a great job, and I look forward to the banter this season, man. I'm sure that somebody asked me about Gamecock football, and I'm like, man, these fans love it, and you've never seen a team with as much. It seems like we have so much drama. Just like it's nonstop drama, man.
Week 1 is a must-win.
It is. No, Tennessee's definitely a must-win.
It's a must-win.
I think it's a coin flip type of 23-20, 20-17 game, but definitely for both programs. I think the trajectory of both programs, it is a massive game, massive for both head coaches, huge for both fan bases for sure. So that'll be a fun one. Again, we're just 12 days away from kickoff on the day we're recording this. But again, Tori, let's definitely do it again soon, man. We'd love to get you back on before the end of the season and talk some Gamecocks football.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. He's Tori Gurley. I'm Chris Phillips. We appreciate you guys tuning in, and we'll catch you next time on the episode of the Spurs Up Show.